This is the final segment of our program, and we have a very, very interesting guest on our program today, Priest Kailash Leonce, and he's from St. Lucia, and Godfrey Innes.
Priest Kailash.
Yes, Honorable.
I won't say you're in denial. I would say you're ignoring some realities. And the reality is that the Caribbean as a region is a food deficit region, meaning that the Caribbean peoples do not feed themselves. Caribbean peoples depend on imported food. All right? To compound the issue, the Caribbean is one of the most vulnerable areas to natural disasters like hurricanes. All right. If the people in the region is not producing food to feed itself, how are you going to indigenize the utilization of local foods if there's none?
Well, I mean, I'm not ignoring that. I used to be a teacher before. I used to teach agricultural science, you understand? And at the school that I was, at that school, we taught 14, 15, 16-year-olds. We were able to produce so much lettuce that we could have actually catered for the school feeding program, and in an excess that we could have sold to the supermarkets. So I more believe that it is what you call political will, and also what's the mandate that is given to the people. How is it that our farmers are actually taken care of? And everyone wants to be a police, a teacher, a lawyer, a doctor, but no one seems to want to be a farmer, right? And, well, when I govern a country, I'm going to be the Minister of Agriculture. You understand that? Because the agriculture means agreeing with your culture first and foremost, not just A-G-R-I-C, but A-G-R-E-E, agriculture, C-U-L-T-U-R-E. So the man who controls your food, man, we have chicken back and chicken legs coming down into the Caribbean that have been in containers for over 15, 16 years.
Thank you.
You understand? So then, I believe in a plant-based diet, but okay, if you in the Bahamas really wants to eat chicken, why don't you just grow the chicken?
We have no commercial poultry production, only one company. All the others, due to a duty reduction policy that these governments have had, destroyed the industry. I am a voice in the wilderness.
This is the guest now.
Yeah,
yeah.
but I understand.
This is the guest now.
I am a voice
No,
in
he's
the
the
wilderness.
guest now. And we have a food deficit problem in the Bahamas, and there have been bad policies throughout the region.
Throughout the region, man. Yeah.
For the importation of food.
Well, do you remember, Honorable, that we used to plant for the United Kingdom? We planted for these people, man. We fed them. You know, during slavery, man, I mean, that's what the Caribbean was. The Caribbean was the breadbasket. We planted everything. Right, so then, why is it now, after we've been liberated, we cannot plant for ourselves? You know, if we used to plant so much bananas in St. Lucia to export to people, why can't we just plant bananas for ourselves? You know, so then you have to ask yourself the question then, okay, what is, and it's not about blaming, you know? It's about being creative and being solution-oriented. How is it then that even if the Caribbean is disaster-prone, when a hurricane hits in Antigua, it doesn't hit in probably St. Lucia or St. Vincent. St. Vincent is safe. So as the CARICOM, as you see, the EU is right now they compact as a people, right? Look at America. America is the United States of America. It's not just one country, it's states, right? So then, if we within the Caribbean region, I mean, we're the same people, you don't look no different than my father, right? So then, there's no significant difference from us. So why don't we create policies whereby, you know, we could feed ourselves throughout the region? So even if one country is down with food, you know, you could supply them still because you specialize in that particular type of food. So I believe that even in the educational system, that's why, you know, we are here this time around in the Bahamas, you know, just perception. 99% of your reality is your perception. All right? So if we just perceive that things could be better, we could begin to implement. Every secondary school is supposed to have a strong agricultural program. Then you put a 40 by 60 greenhouse. That 40 by 60 greenhouse, one or two of them, within that same agricultural ed program, supposed to be able to provide that school with enough lettuce and tomatoes at least, that they don't have to buy it. And let's say they have chicken production. I'm not an advocate for eating fowls, but let's just say you have chicken production. Then you could use the manure as fertilizer to fertilize the same lettuce and tomatoes. And you use the eggs and whatever else you want to use. I'm not advocating egg eating, you know. But I'm saying if you really want to eat chicken and you really want to eat egg, eat the fresh one that you actually produce by the hands of your own citizens. Then at least, you know, because you might not want to poison a food, but many of the foods, because of the economic nature of it, many of the rices, the majority of the rice is full of cyanide, right? The apples are waxed, right? The apples are waxed. The ripe banana you get is treated with fungicides. So any banana producing country you go by and you go on the plantation, you're an agriculturist, right? So after you harvest the banana and you wash it, where you go? You go and dip it in a fungicide, right? And then you take it, you put it into a room and you give it radiation so it will get yellow. You understand that? So then, why is it that you would want to actually consume a food that has been produced out of economic needs, not out of the needs of nutrifying and keeping your people healthy? No. You know, so this is where the policies actually has to change. So the Honorable is right when it comes to agreeing with our culture, agriculture. But we just need to be, you know, realistic and honest. We need to be honest. That's the key thing. Honesty and self-love. Because you have children, you have grandchildren. I remember in Dominica, I saw a child at 11 years with polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is a disease that affects the ovaries of the woman. She has multiple cysts, fluid-filled bags on the ovaries because she has what you call hormonal imbalance. Because of my studies, I could have looked into the future and said, wow, that 10-year-old child, within 7 years, 20 years, that 10-year-old child could develop breast cancer. Now today you have 21-year-olds with breast cancer. That's the same 10-year-olds with hormonal problems. When your child begins to menstruate at 10 years today, that means that her physical structure is now exposed to a larger quantity of the female hormone estrogen that your great-great-grandmother might have begun menstruating at the age of 14, 15, 16. So she has 4 years more of exposure to the same chemical that makes her grow breasts. So then it's very difficult for a tumor to grow in her breast. Why? Because she is estrogen dominant. So she has polycystic ovarian syndrome, she has fibroids, she develops endometriosis, and because the increase in estrogen also stimulates production of insulin from the pancreas, that person develops insulin resistance, and they could actually increase their risk of being a diabetic. So when we analyze the realistic nature of the disease, and we are honest, and we are scientific in nature, and we study it, then we as a people could create ways and means to eradicate diabetes. I can tell you, you as a man should accept that no one tells you you're supposed to be on a drug for the rest of your life to bring down your blood sugar levels. A diabetic also have a spiritual aspect of it, an emotional aspect of it, an ethereal aspect. Because the physical manifestation of a high blood sugar level, I say, man, if your blood sugar level is high, that means that you are a very stubborn man.
You what?
Yeah, you're a stubborn man.
You are a stubborn man. That's the spirit of a diabetic.
Yeah.
Stubborn. You eat all the things that you know you're not supposed to eat. You do all the things you're not supposed to do. And then you go to the nurse to take care of your toe that is gangrened now. And then you must have an amputation. Then your kidneys would have to fail because you know that you're not supposed to drink the soft drink.
The same thing applies to a person who is hypertensive.
Same thing. They're bread lovers, man.
Yeah. And so if you are on hypertension medication for the rest of your life, then you are a stubborn man.
That's it, man.
You talk about me. See?
That's you?
But what do you mean I talking about you? I call a man name. You're a stubborn man, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's love of self.
If you are using a particular medication and the doctor tells you that you're 50 and you have to be on this for the rest of your life, something got to be wrong with that. Eh?
It's called insanity. It's called repeating the same action expecting a different result.
And you're 75.
Insanity.
And you're 75 now.
No. You start that thing long before 75. From I know you was on that medication. This man has been on hypertensive medication for about 30 years.
You know, a lot of men don't take that because they know it gets them impotent.
Pardon me?
A lot of men don't take hypertensive medication because it gets them impotent. Because remember, high blood pressure is like this. If you have a tank that holds 1,000 gallons of water, if it has 700 gallons and you open the tap, the pressure is going to be a specific pressure. If it has 500 gallons, it's going to be of a lesser pressure. If you have 200 gallons, it's going to have a lesser pressure. Now, when the doctor gives you a medication called a diuretic, what they're doing, they are just removing water from your physical structure. So you drink the drug and you urinate. But what you must understand is that you are urinating out all your potassium. Now, because you pass out the potassium, right, that means your heart won't function properly. So you develop cardiomegaly. So if I press your shin, you're going to have what you call pitting edema, right? If I press here, you're going to see the mark of my finger is right there. It dipped because you have water retention. So if you really want to take care of your heart, of your erection, of your high blood pressure, you must learn how to naturally remove sodium from your physical structure, remove excess water from your physical structure, and put in potassium to increase muscular contraction, because the penis there's no bone in the penis. The penis is a muscle. So if you are depleting yourself of potassium, that means that you are depleting yourself of the possibility of having a good erection.
That's why I eat coconut water, drink coconut water, and bananas.
That's good.
But what he forget to tell you is that I am a strong Yoruba man.
Yoruba?
Yeah.
Oh, give thanks for the blessing.
Give thanks for the blessing.
Yes.
Tell him to come off that. How does he get off that hypertensive?
You see, people just mistake salt. So you say, oh, please, I don't use salt, but baking powder. The biggest danger to a hypertensive is baking powder, because it's sodium bicarbonate or sodium carbonate. Bread.
Poultry,
Right? Because baking powder is sodium. It's salt. It's saltier than table salt. That's salty. So then you have to get off all them pastries and all this bread and all these crackers, right? Get off them, because they're the culprits. And then you have the narrowing of the blood vessels. The smaller the vessels, the higher the pressure. Look at a pressure wash. The pressure of the water is decreased until it's just a tiny little hole, so the pressure is higher. So the more your vessels narrow, the higher your pressure gets. So the more cholesterol you consume, the higher bad cholesterol, low density lipoproteins, the worse your pressure gets. So you have to get off the animal products, right? Dairy products also has a high level of sodium, right? So the cheese and the milk and all these things, they're sodium high. That's why when you do a macaroni pie with cheese, you don't really put so much salt, because the cheese in itself is already salty, right? So lifestyle, reversing hypertension and diabetes are very, 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 very realistic goals that one could actually have. I have had clients, right, within 7 days, blood pressure, blood sugar regulated. And if you maintain that lifestyle change, brother, you could get off these drugs, right? And you could heal yourself of these diseases, right? And it's not just hearsay. There are many papers that's written on that. All you have to do is just to study and
let's deal with there are various forms of cancers in the Bahamas. It's raging, especially breast cancer. You heard about the BRCA1 gene among Bahamian women, and a whole lot of Bahamian women, they are afraid that they would get this BRCA1 and have breast cancer. How do you guard against breast cancer?
I'm not really a proponent of these. You see, genes are activated because you know how much junk DNA you have in your physical structure. You understand? So it takes a particular lifestyle to activate a gene, you know? So breast cancer, look at that, right? A lot of our women have been traumatized. They have been sexually abused, have been emotionally abused, have been verbally abused. When you have a woman who's been abused, that woman has gone on through a bombardment of emotional stress. When you are emotionally stressed, that increases your level of cortisol, which is the stress hormone. Now, cortisol comes from steroids or cholesterol. So an increase in cortisol directly leads to an increase in testosterone, the male hormone, and an increase in estrogen. So stress could actually cause a woman who is menstruating to stop menstruating. Stress could cause a woman who stopped menstruating today to begin to menstruate again, just because of that chemical nature of the blood. So then we must examine also the emotional health of our woman. Then you have what you call the BPA in the plastic bottles. Then you have the placental extracts in the makeups. So when a woman puts on a makeup and her cheeks get red, you know, and she looks all red and all bright, this contains placental extracts. That's also estrogen, right? So then you have women who actually wear antiperspirants, right? And these antiperspirants, apart from containing heavy metals like aluminum, they also contain parabens, right? And parabens are also xenoestrogens. So you have plenty of chemicals that act as a natural woman's hormone. So you have an 8-year-old girl. If you take off her clothes, her top, her breast, her chest would be as flat as a man's chest. When she begins to go into adolescence or puberty, and you have a surge in estrogen, the female hormone, that flat chest grows breasts, big breasts, right? So then if a chemical can convert a flat chest into a bulky breast, that means an excess of that chemical in your food, in your makeup, in your water, in whatever it is that you consume, right, would result in an increase in the stimulation of that breast tissue, in a stimulation of that womb tissue, of that ovary tissue. So our women don't just fall sick with breast cancer, right? Our women are victims because everything within the society is designed from the tampon. You know what a tampon is? You know the synthetic fibers used in tampons? You know the sanitary napkins. Our grandmothers used to use cotton and wash it, and people used to laugh at them. Right now, it's fashionable to use 100% cotton because they understood that the synthetic fibers in the stay freeze and the confidence, these things there, contains, chemical. They've been bleached with chlorine, one. So it's the same recycled newspapers and all these different things they use, and they bleach it and they make it look white. So because it's white, you perceive it's good, it's clean, right? But the chlorine compounds from the bleaching of these things there, and you insert the tampon inside of the woman, or you put the sanitary napkin in an area that's one of the most absorbent areas within the woman's physical structure. So what do we expect to happen to our women, right? So then it is not just the food. It's not just one single thing that we have to examine. It's multi-strata, multi-layers that actually affects our woman. And for us to actually save our women from breast cancer, that's why I told you, man, 5-7 years ago, when a 14-year-old came to me, I knew that 10 years down the line, she would have developed breast cancer. Yeah. So we have to be prophylactic, primary health care. How do we educate our people differently to naturally prevent themselves from getting that disease?
Honorable Priest Kailash, K. Leonce, thank you so very much for being here today. This has been a tremendous education, and I know that you are going to be in town for how long?
Well, I'll be there until the 31st. I'll be having a lecture.
31st of January?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
At the school at
Akhepran, and I'll be also at UB, and can I just say where my lecture will be?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So on Thursday evening, I'll be having a lecture. This Thursday, the 25th, I'll be having a lecture at the Courtyard Hotel, West Bay Street. That's from 7 p.m. till 9 p.m., where specifically we'll be looking at how it is that we could naturally eradicate diabetes. And also we are looking at on Monday the 30th, we'll be having a lecture at UB where we're going to be specifically looking at sexuality, all right? The prostate cancer, breast cancer, and then sexuality within man and woman. So if a man could be a minute man, that means that within a minute of sexual intercourse, you could have an orgasm and ejaculation. Why then can a woman be a minute woman? Why can't a woman experience that orgasmic change or that climax within a minute or 2 minutes also? So we're going to go into the whole science of the sexuality of the man and the woman, and how is it that a man and a woman could better a relationship between themselves. And we are also, while we are here, we'll be at Akhepran giving several lectures. And for the people who might want to see us or get copies of our books, definitely, can I give out a telephone number where they could contact us?
That will cost you this book. I have to keep this book.
Oh, definitely.
Yes, go ahead. To give your number out.
The telephone number is 813-0848. That's 813-0848. And that's for the people who want to get in touch with us. And we have a website, that's priestkailash.com. And we have a YouTube channel. You could always go onto our YouTube channel. And don't just believe everything I came here to say. You know, research it, read it for yourself, question it, you know, and come to the lecture with questions, so at least you could get something out of me.
Good. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Godfrey. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for watching and listening our program today. Good evening, everyone.